Right. Shall we have a ponder? Now we're starting the Beatitudes. Now the Beatitudes are a very interesting thing that Jesus did. So I want to start by thinking about what is truth? Or more importantly, I guess, and more relevant, I suppose, is what is true. Because often we narrow what is true down to mean whatever can be weighed in the scales, don't we? If you can weigh it and define it and contain it, then that is the truth. Not the big broad stuff. It's like this here. What's this? Is that a piece of steel, right? Is that a piece of steel? Or is that a knife? Which one of those statements is true? This is a piece of steel, or this is a knife. We don't normally have fancy knives. Esther stole this from one of her jobs. We haven't got a full set of solid silver knives. Anyway, is that a knife? Is that a piece of steel? Which statement is true? Because we've been conditioned, I think, to think that one statement is true and therefore the rest of the statements are untrue. The media and our argumentative friends obviously do this when they think any argument is either black or white. There's only two sides. There's right or there's wrong. Yeah, there's right or there's wrong. You're either going to do it or you're not. Now, there are times when it is a stark choice like that, either or. But people who are wise, that's us, all of us here, I hope, know that intelligence is not the only truth. They know that wisdom is also true. It's not either or. They know that the world isn't either or. The world very often is both and more. I guess as we've got, probably the last decade or so, there's been a broader understanding that the whole of life is a spectrum, isn't it? If you go back in time, I don't know whether it's modern thinking. Is that the 16th century? No, that's Renaissance, isn't it? I don't really know this. I'm just pretending I know stuff now. But there was an idea that, that everything could be reduced to simple scientific facts, and then the world starts being this or that. But I think there's been a rediscovery, which is what the ancients had. The world is a spectrum, and that's true in almost every aspect. It's true in terms of relationships, isn't it? It's true in terms of what a thing actually is. And we can understand things better. And so often it is poetry or films or books that express this. So another example is a cat, right? Is it just a cat? Well, it's not, is it? Because if it's your cat, it's a friend, isn't it? And it's something deeper. And I don't know, it's just, I guess we're getting a better understanding now that the world is far more colourful. One of the phrases for this is called re-enchanting the world, because we've lost something when everything is just a piece of steel. We lose stuff because it's not. The world is deeper and richer, broader, and a spectrum, a rainbow. Everything is a rainbow. Anyway, I wasn't going to talk about that. So for us, right, in the light of that, for us as followers of Jesus, doing our best, friends of Jesus, followers of the way, I'm asking you now, right? Don't answer online. Do you? I feel like I'm an American evangelist preacher. Do you love the 10 Commandments? Do you love the 10 Commandments? Do you love it when Jesus says, not one bit of the law will ever pass away? And then are you confused when Jesus talks about the importance of the law? And Jesus is the kind of friendly, God's your mate kind of bloke. And then you get onto the books of particularly the epistles, the letters from Paul, and all the New Testament where it says the law's been chucked out, and Paul seems like the strict one. I mean, it's quite paradoxical, isn't it? Jesus, the very relaxed, get over it. God loves you. Not one bit of the law will pass away, says Jesus. And then Paul, very strict, you must do this, salvation by this. Oh, we don't need the law anymore. How does that all hang together? The law appears to be chucked out of the window. I mean, we're not going to go down that line, down that particular rabbit hole this morning, but hold that tension in your mind. There is no more law. We're set free by Christ. But the law will not pass away. Because as human beings, we don't like those tensions, do we? It seems unclear and contradictory. We think it's woolly. But if you have any experience or wisdom of real life, which we all have, you should know, I should know, that life isn't straightforward. Human beings aren't straightforward. We're a complex, contradictory, nuanced, fascinating, surprising bundle of life. Every one of us is. It's all right to be contradictory. It's not all right to be a hypocrite, but it's all right to have contradictions within yourself. Why do we expect God to be so straightforward when we know from our lives that things aren't? If we can't even understand our friends and our families, and let's face it, come on, why on earth do we think we can understand God and we've got that bit nailed? Well, I know exactly what's going on there, when we can't even get how our family and friends work. So anyway, Jesus, right, having said, or he says that the 10 rules carved in stone, that's in capital letters here, still apply. That's what Jesus says. He then shows another thing that throws that statement, I think, into deep relief. He presents what we now know as the Beatitudes, which is a Latin word. That's why it's so weird. And it means lovely stuff. Near enough. Yeah, just roll with that. That's fine for now. Now, there are two takes on the Beatitudes, the lovely stuff. There's Matthew 5, Matthew's Gospel, and there's Luke's Gospel, Luke chapter 6. We're going to be using Matthew's telling of this, but we will probably cross-refer at some point over the next however many weeks we're doing this. Now, Matthew has 8 Beatitudes. I don't know why I had an urge to show you how many 8 is. Matthew has 8 Beatitudes and Luke has 4. But Luke balances that out with a few woes. Not woes, but with woes. Because Luke says, blessed are. In Luke's Gospel, Jesus says, blessed are. And then he goes, but woe to you. So again, that's another interesting contradiction. When you look at what Luke was like, his attitude towards women and the poorest people, all this kind of stuff. And yet he's quite strict on the, yeah, you're in trouble though. Not you, but the woe people. Anyway, have a look at it if you want. That's Luke 6. But we're going to be looking at Matthew 5 version or telling. So anyway, so the woes are quite cool, but we're not looking at them in this series. If you want a series on woes, let me know and I'll think about it. Anyway, so why does Jesus do this? Why does his first major sermon begin with this? You'd think the church would have noticed. When you look at Luke's Gospel, Luke starts his ministry with that statement and he goes off into the wilderness. Then he comes back with that statement from Isaiah, the Lord has given me to announce good news, all that stuff, which is his manifesto. In Matthew's Gospel, you'd think he comes back with this. Now, I think what I find surprising is that you'd think the church would have noticed the first thing he teaches. Does Jesus first teach? Behave and obey the 10 rules carved in stone. Make sure you tithe, don't kill people. Jesus doesn't start with that. He starts, with this. I'm going to read it. It's in Matthew chapter 5, reading from verse 3. Should have put a bookmark in, shouldn't I? So I look more professional. Like oh yeah, I know where everything is in the Bible. Just open it and it's there. That's the page I'm after. Anyway, Matthew chapter 5. There we are. Jesus saw the crowd, so he went up to a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and then he began to teach him. This is the beginnings of the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are those who are spiritually needy, or blessed are the poor in spirit. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Blessed are those who mourn. They will be comforted. Blessed are those who are humble. They will be given the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for what is right. They will be filled. Blessed are those who are merciful. They will be shown mercy. Blessed are those whose hearts are pure. They will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. They will be called children of God. Blessed are those who suffer for doing what is right. The kingdom of heaven belongs to them. Blessed are you when people make fun of you and hurt you because of me. You're also blessed when they tell all kinds of evil lies about you because of me. Be joyful and glad. Your reward in heaven is great. In the same way, people hurt the prophets who lived a long time ago. It's good, isn't it? So Jesus starts his work by laying out what it is that he is about. He's establishing beyond doubt what kind of revolution it is that he's bringing, what sort of kingdom it is that he represents. Now, if you look at the before this happened bit, what happens? Jesus goes into the wilderness, he faces the Satan, he gets tempted. Then he calls 4 fishermen. Then he starts teaching and preaching and healing and casting out demons or casting out evil. And this is the overview. Jesus is saying, this is what I've come to do. The taster, the scene setter, this is what God is actually about. It's the same as in Luke. He goes off into the wilderness, has that experience, and then he comes back and announces what the good news is. It's for the poor, it's for the oppressed, it's for the blind, it's for those who can't. It's Jesus announces. So in Matthew's gospel, this is Jesus's manifesto. And I'm surprised the churches don't make more of this, because this is what he's about. So the specific teaching kicks in. And Jesus brings a perspective change, a sea change, if you like, a different view to the 10 rules carved in stone. There's no more, don't do this. But now, God blesses those who. Blessed are these people. So Jesus starts not with thou shalt or thou shalt not. He starts with blessed are. And who are? The poor and the hurting and the seekers and the kind and the peacemakers and those who stand up for what is right. Do you see the difference in tone? Moses comes down from the mountain, and we'll get to this in a moment. Moses comes down from the mountain with these massive, great big bits of stone. He'd obviously been working out. These big bits of stone where God's finger had carved the rules. Do obey, don't do this, stuff like that, you know, the rules. I don't know, I can't remember, but I try and follow them anyway. So Moses comes down, and if you've seen the photographs, he had a big beard, didn't he? And there's thunder and lightning behind him. Yeah, Jesus comes along, and he says things different. Jesus doesn't say, no more, you must obey in order to possess and possess the land and prosper. No more, God blesses those who are strong and powerful. They've had their blessing already. Now, when Jesus arrives, those who are broken or hurting or who stand up for what is right, they will receive God's blessing. Not those who are good at following the rules, because here's the rules, follow them and you'll be all right. No, the rules don't get a look in, actually. Jesus changes the perspective of the story from an angry hierarchy to a loving parent. It's no longer punishment for breaking the rules. Now it's love and grace for being a person who reflects the values of God's kingdom, the values of God. God's done the rules bit. We all know the basic principles, don't we? And now it's time to move on, says Jesus. You know the rules. You know kind of how it works. Let's move on to the next level. This is leveling up in our spiritual lives. This is moving up a level, ascending. Richard Rohr, that's how you pronounce his name, puts it very well, because this book's been knocking around our house for ages, and I finally got around to reading it the other week. Not that book. This book, it's called Falling Upwards. And he says in this book, I've always wondered why people never want to put a stone monument of the Beatitudes on the courthouse lawn. Then I realized that the Beatitudes of Jesus would probably not be very good for any war, any macho worldview, the wealthy, or our consumer economy. Courthouses are good and necessary first half of life institutions. In the second half, you try instead to influence events, to work for change, to quietly persuade, to change your own attitudes, to pray or forgive instead of taking things to court. So there's a place for those systems, but actually you can ascend beyond them. Not because you're better than them, or you don't need them because, you've moved on so you can do whatever the heck you like. That's not it. But actually, because you've ascended to a different level of operating. Now, the rules people, and there are rules people in our church, will struggle with this because it's not fair. It's not fair. They're right. It's not fair. Because with the rules, everyone knows the score. You've got your chance. There's the rules. Why don't you follow them? We all know where we stand then. Well, you have a point. But get a load of this. This is from Matthew 20. You ready? God's kingdom is like an estate manager who went out early in the morning to hire workers for the vineyard. They agreed on a wage of $1 a day and went to work. Later, about 9 o'clock, the manager saw some other people hanging around the town square unemployed. They told them to go to work in the vineyard and they would get paid a fair wage. And they went. The manager did the same thing at noon and again at 3 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, the manager went back and found still others standing around. He says, "Why are you standing around all day doing nothing?" And they said, "Because no one hired us." The manager said, "Go to work in the vineyard." When the day's work was over, the owner of the vineyard instructed the foreman, "Call the workers in and pay them their wages. Start with the last hired and go on to the first." Those hired at 5 o'clock came up and were each given $1. When those who were hired first saw that, they assumed they'd get far more, but they got the same, each of them $1. Taking the $1, they groused angrily to the manager. "These last workers put in only one easy hour, and you just made them equal to us who slaved all day under a scorching sun." The owner replied, "Friend, I haven't been unfair. We agreed on the wage of $1, didn't we? So take it and go. I decided to give the one who came last the same as you. Can't I do what I want with my own money? You're going to get stingy because I'm generous." So here it is again, said Jesus, the great reversal. Many of the first ending up last and the last first. It's not fair. The truth is, right, we are just blessed. They are. Because they're poor, simply because God knows the hurt and the heartbreak and the aloneness of those who mourn. Simply because you are mourning, you are blessed. And God looks on you with this light and his love. Because God knows, not because you've earned it or deserved it. The humble and the merciful and the peaceful and the persecuted, all blessed, not for being saintly, but for being human. Just because God is gracious and knows how fragile and broken we are, for being kingdom, simply because. It makes no sense if your world only has the 10 rules carved in stone. But if your world has Jesus in it, there's a place for gentleness and healing and of rest and of undeserved grace. The world is not all rock-faced regulations. See the world from a different place, from a different perspective. Change your attitude. Have a be attitude. So it begins with this, and I'll keep it quick because we're going to pray. This is where the second half of the talk, well, you didn't finish it, did you? Well, no, I didn't. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Now, that is a strange sounding thing to say, isn't it? Now, I've fretted in the past over this, over what I regarded as spiritualizing the teachings of Jesus, taking it out of the real world. Because in Luke, it is simply, blessed are the poor. But it works actually on both levels. And I've kind of picked this up as I've looked at it more this week. The sentence seems strange because it flies in the face of certainly our society, but I think most societies, as well as some strands of the church and other religions, because it says, if you're poor, then you are a winner. That's not right. Surely blessed are the rich, blessed are those with plenty. Surely success means you get comfort and luxury and your heart's desire. I mean, see Kenneth Copeland, for instance. Surely it means you get what you deserve. But it has been said, you can see what God thinks about money when you see who he gives it to. That's not in the Bible. Poor people can be grasping and greedy, just as rich people can. Look at the stuff that people accumulate, all of us do, I guess. How people value life according to its tradable value, as though that were the only way to value things, the only way to see things. But poverty can be a teacher of gratitude, of acceptance that the way the world can be, of our own vulnerability and weakness, our own dependency, actually, on others and on God. It's easy to feel powerful and strong and important when you've got money or the right suit or the right house. But it's a beast that needs feeding, because if that's how you value life, there's always someone better at it than you, more successful, more valued, more blessed. But you're blessed, or rather you're not blessed if you're rich. You're not blessed, and I'm not giving you a hard time if you're rich. You're not blessed because actually if you're rich, you've had your reward. You've been paid, you're done. There's no further action needed. It's the poor who are owed. And hear this, God has taken note of that. And I don't think this is patronizing in any way. There's no comment here on the noble poor or the poor people of the salt of the earth. They're just like everyone else. But that doesn't matter, because the blessing is there for them just because they're poor. It's not deserved. It just is. It's the great balancing or the great unbalancing, depending on your perspective. So that's the poverty of don't have enough. But the poverty of spirit, that was kind of where my thinking developed a bit more and where the sermon just ends in a few moments, which I picked up from the 9 Beats video. 9 Beats. Where's that? The 9 Beats stuff. The ninefold path. Because he says poverty is when you don't have enough or when you aren't enough. And I thought, that's very good. That's good. It's about recognizing that we close ourselves off. We try and protect to keep what we have, what little we feel we have. And we feel jealous in the original sense of the word. We're scared of losing our security or our comfort, our identity. But the poor in spirit know this. They may not necessarily have thought it through or even articulated it, some of them. But the poor in spirit recognize their dependence on God. And this isn't about being needy and demanding, because we all know people like that. That's something completely different. That's about self-reliance and manipulating others to get what you want. The poor in spirit know something about trust and about trusting God and about having open hands. And open hands are the only way that we will receive the kingdom. You can't grab it or hold it, because the kingdom's like water. It's cleansing and life-giving, but it's impossible to hold fully. Who could hold a river? Who could hold a waterfall? All you can do is be open to it. Blessed are the poor in spirit. If you somehow feel you aren't enough, then you already know what it means to be poor in spirit. And you are blessed. And the kingdom, get this, the kingdom is yours. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I would urge all of us, and myself included here, to trust what we have and what we are into God's hands, to take that risk to be poor before God? How do we follow this teaching of Jesus? How do we serve those who are poor in spirit? How do we serve ourselves? Should have a few moments quiet. I'm going to play some